So, hello everyone. Welcome to this meetup where I'm going to talk about a computer vision for spatial analysis. So, my name is Victor Rodrigues. I'm the digital specialist for data and AI at Microsoft. And of course, if you want to connect with me in any kind of social network, you have the link here. So, I'll be on LinkedIn, I'll be on Twitter as well. So, feel free to connect with any kind of questions you may have or any question, not just about what I'm about to present, but as well the Microsoft Live itself. Okay. Amazing. So I will kickstart straight away with the presentation if it's fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. That's great. So let's talk about today about computer vision for spatial analysis. Okay. So you can use the computer vision for spatial analysis. So to ingest streaming videos from cameras, you can extract the insights and generate events to use by other systems. So basically what the serves to do is detect the presence and the movement of the people in a video. Okay. So you can do things like counted the number of people entering a space. You can do things like measure the compliance with a face mask and social distance guidelines. And by processing, what the spatial analysts do is by processing these video streams for physical space, your organization are able to learn how people use them and maximize the space value of your organization. Okay. So what basically spatial analysis does is ingest the video, detect the people in the video, and after people are detected, the system track the people and the movement around the time and generate events as people interact with regions of the interest, for example, and all the operations give insights from a single camera field of view. Okay, so let's explore a little bit about some use case on this. So today we're going to cover three mainly use cases that we are using for spatial analysis. So basically are people counting, social distancing, and entry and exit of the space. Okay, let's kickstart first with the people count, right? So when you think about people counting, you can count people in a design area, and you can monitor and alert for max occupancy, and you can collect historical data to make decisions for how to optimize occupancy of the physical space, for example. So in this demo video that you're seeing right now, show how spatial analysis can detect and understand the people movement in the store. In this case, the AI insights is generated by the container in a periodic people count. In this case, we have 6 people in the camera field of view. You can notice as well that even like in the people are partially occluded by, let's say, by something, the AI model accuracy is not impacted by it and calculate the people that are still being counted. How great is that, right? So let me go a little bit deep in how the configuration and how the insights are extracted from this. Okay, so when you think about the people counting, the old configuration of the spatial analysis models are all executed through the use of the JSON file that contains the configuration. Okay, so for example, for people counting configuration, so you have here, for example, an instructor AI inside JSON file that will be admitted by the container. First, for example, you need to set a polygon in the camera field of view, which is your count of people. For example, here just the coordinates of this, and then you can configure the polygon a friendly name. Okay, in that case, we're gonna call this a storefront camera, for example, that indicate the frequency that, and as well, you need to set the frequency that you need to admit the events as well. Okay. Also, the in events that we are covered, let's say, is in less. How can I put like this? So any events that are like covered by this is suppressed, so it's not going to be admitted by the container. So another thing here that I'd like to highlight as well. So you can see here to the right, we have the simple JSON file. It's a simple JSON output that the spatial analysis container generates for you. It's that all the AI inside events admitted by the container. The type of the event, for example, is the person count. As you can see here, this is the type of event, right? And as well, you're gonna notice a couple things, for example, some properties, for example, the person count, for example, 3 people, what is the zone? Remember that you set the zone here, the configuration, and how will be the position, the X and Y here, the position of the person in the front of the camera. So that kind of insights, then later on, I'm gonna explain a little bit more about how you can do the integrations, how you can get these outputs and so on. But basically, when you get this output, you can work with a different approach, connect with different applications, maybe build a data warehouse so you can do the analysis of this data. Okay? So moving next a little bit here, we talk about the social distance, right? So it's in the mind of every single person these days, unfortunately, but it's there. So social distance. With spatial analysis, we can set the minimal required distance between people, and you can warn the failure of to maintain this distance. So if you think about a retail store, like this example that you're seeing here, you can see that this is already checking the distance between the people. So by saving these AI insights, you can create like a historical report and determine trends in the pandemic compliance, for example, understand how people are behaving inside of your store. And as well, in this case, instead of the people counting, we are running the social distance operation, okay? So we can split this by kind of operations. As well, it's important here that you need to notice that with a single camera, we can run multiple operations at the same time. We're not just doing the calculation of the social distance, but they're also doing the people counting at the same time. So multiple operations can run on top of a single video camera, okay? So, and for purpose of this demo, we did run, of course, the people counting and social distance at the same video field, okay? If you look again for the configuration for the social distance threshold, we can have, for example, what would be threshold out here, okay? And as well, you can set some kind of triggers, like, for example, what would be the frequency. And as well, you can set the minimal distance threshold and the maximal distance threshold, for example. So we are setting here, for example, the minimal distance is 6 feet. That's like more or less 2 meters. And of course, into the right here, we're gonna have all the events that like outputting by the execution of the spatial analysis for the social distance operation, right? So you're gonna have the type of the event, you're gonna get as well the person count, as I mentioned, you can run multiple operations at the same time. You can take a look and the average distance between people, and as well the minimal distance threshold as well that you set here. And every time someone is not complying with the social distance, you're gonna generate an event name called too close, for example. And what will be the distance violation person count. So how many persons are just not complying with this personal, this is social distance. Okay, so this is the kind of AI insight event. And again, it's a kind of event that you can take a look, put in top of your, like in a kind of application, a Power BI, and you can visualize this. Moving next here, we talk about entry and exit. So basically this third case is about entering and of course exiting physical space. So basically what you can do with this, you monitor the entryways for traffic and maintain, let's say, optimal occupancy. So basically you can detect when people enter or leave a zone or cross a line, and you can calculate the time that people spend in an area for example, just waiting for something that you can see here by the video. So you can see how you can determine the waiting time, the checkout of the queue as well. So you can draw, let's say, the polygon around the checkout, as you can see in here, okay? And you can see like the people stand and enter inside of the polygon, and you can start a timer. As you can see here, the timer, yeah? And you stop the timer when the person just exit the polygon. So, and when you get the timestamps of these operations, you can determine the time spent by a person at the checkout counter, for example. So it's great if you want to have a retail stores, customers that are looking for this kind of solutions and so on. It's great because you can start to do these calculations and collect really these insights. Okay, so a little bit about the configuration of the entry and exit place. So if you look at this configuration, we set what to be the name, what to be the zone, what to be the position, and you can set the type of the event like zone crossing, okay? And the output of the AI site works in the same way. You have the events, we have the detection IDs, and you're gonna connect to some properties, like for example, it's a person like the status entry or the status exit, and what the side of the polygon. So if you think about a polygon, you have the 5 sides, right? So you can see, yes, some person just exiting in the first side of the polygon, on the third side of the polygon, and so on. So you can start to map some kind of hot areas when you map this polygon inside of a store, for example, okay? Let me move here for another example as well. So when we have as well another operation that we call person crossing, like a direction line. So this kind of operation, instead of a polygon, you can configure a line or one more line, for example. And what the spatial analysis is going to do is going to emit events when a person crosses a line. So you can see, for example, to the right, you can then notice of the status of the field in JSON file is crossing right. So it's basically the person crossing here to the left, to the right. Okay, so this like indicates the person just crossing from the left to the right, right? In other words, from west to the east and so on. Again, this line is directional. And the best use for this is, for example, if a camera just located in a doorway, where you can determine when a person leaves or enters through the doors. So it's something that's really cool to implement in cases like this. Okay. Uh, Another important thing, of course, there's a lot of use scenarios that we can use, and we have a lot of customers working with Microsoft to implement the spatial analysis on this. So, for example, we have NAC, is an ICV in India, and Luminous, they're the end customer. So basically, they partner to build a pandemic compliance solution to enable you to work in scenarios and quickly adapt and change the COVID-19 situation, right? So what they are doing is just implemented this like in this kind of a smart off solution. So you can make sure that the employees inside of the place are ensuring the social distance, ensuring the max occupancy guidelines and so on to go ahead and walk freely to the office, right? As well, we visualize a lot of this kind of use case across the retail store. So in the retail industry, for example, retailers need to be better understand how customer move to the store and how to modify the store layout. And they want to do things like measure how much time people spend in line or in front of like a retail display or something like this, or if the store layout helps people to maintain the social distance. So with the spatial analysis, you can build like your own solution for the retail industry to improve this customer, let's say, satisfaction, understand about this customers, bring some kind of customer protection, safety and health because of the social distance and so on. And of course, increase the revenue. With the spatial analysis as well is effectively a scale for business applications, and it is also available if you connect with a product called Dynamics Connected Store. That's a SaaS offer that we have at Microsoft that provide all the kind of, let's say, KPIs, charts, reports, and it's fully integrated already with the spatial analysis, okay? Moving next, for manufacturing, is not different at all. In manufacturing, plants need monitor zones where people, for example, presence is not recommended due a safety concern, for example. So with the spatial analysis, the AI running on the video cameras can detect the people in a forbidden zone, for example, in real time, and just generate an alert, for example. Both, let's say, the safety personnel as well as the employees involved can be monitored this using this solution. And of course, generate alerts for the danger and alerting and create, of course, features to alerting on top of this. Of course, this will generate a lot of the good impact for companies like this, for companies specifically in manufacturing, so that you can decrease the number of accidents and so on. Okay, for people that are really more not focused in the business side and understand the use case and are more focused on how Victor, look how this everything works in terms of the spatial analysis, right? So the first thing, the most important is that spatial analysis ships as a Docker container. And of course, we are shipping as a Docker container because it's optimal for data control, privacy, heavy traffic optimization. Okay, so spatial analysis brings the power of the intelligent ad, so you can enable it. You can use in the Azure cloud to create this powerful business application at scale. So jump a little bit deeper in terms of like the deployment of the container and the architecture of the container. So when you think about the spatial analysis itself, it needs to be deployed as some kind of hardware requirements for this. The first hardware requirement for your device, your IoT Edge device, is that can be first, we already using these in top of Azure Stack Edge, okay? But if you will not want to use the Azure Stack Edge, the requirements that we need from Microsoft and required by Microsoft to run the spatial analysis, that you need to have a server, okay, that to have a NVIDIA T4 GPU. This is the basic requirement for this, okay? So if you're planning to use this, I'm already doing some tests with virtual machines, for example, even like physical servers in other customers. The main requirement is that this service need to have a GPU, and this GPU need to be an NVIDIA T4 GPU, okay? Another important information as well, that we have some kind of benchmarking in how many cameras you can run on top of every single T4 GPU, or every single GPU that you have available in your server. In our benchmark, we have more or less like this. So 15 cameras strings you can run per T4 GPU for to execute things like person crossing skills, people counting, and so on. And for do things like social distance and so on, you can run with just one T4 GPU, you can run 20 cameras on top of that. So depending of the sizing of your server that you want to run the spatial analysis on top of this, you can run something between 30 and 40 strings per T4 GPU. So it's something that's great. So if you start to calculate like kind of return of the investment cameras, a number of cameras streamings versus the number of GPUs they need to invest, you're gonna see that really valuable on this. Okay, important thing. So how can I deploy spatial analysis with inside of Azure, inside of my hardware, inside of like an edge device, right? First of all, you're gonna need like an IoT hub. That's the basic concept that you need in this architecture. So once you have the IoT hub, it's possible to create the edge device on top of IoT hub, and then deploy the spatial analysis container inside of the IoT edge device. Okay, so you have here your hardware, you have the spatial analysis, and the communication with the IoT hub. Once you establish the communication with the IoT hub, install the container, install your spatial analysis container inside of the hardware, you're gonna have to make the configuration to connect with your IP cameras or a security server, and you get the streams from there, okay? So when you need to work with real-time streaming, of course, you're gonna need to connect with through the RTSP protocol to be able to communicate and try to collect the insights from there, okay? So once you are collecting the data, collecting the streaming, the information, you're sending information to IoT Hub. Of course, when you work with the Microsoft, like let's say Stack or Azure Stack portfolio, you're gonna see that you can enable things like plugging with webhooks. You can create the Azure functions. We can work with logic apps to generate alerts and so on. And of course, bring some kind of integration to the next level, connecting with web apps or the Power Platform, for example, O365, or even the Power BI and so on, to generate and analyze and collecting all these insights on this. Okay. Guys, feel free to interrupt me anytime and do any questions, okay? If it's fine. Okay, so I will show a little bit today because if you remember by the beginning, I show a lot of JSON configuration. So if you work before with IoT Hub, you know when every time you need to deploy something from IoT Hub to our edge device, you need to input this JSON configuration so the container understands what you want to do with the container that installed that. For example, things like that I mentioned, what is the polygon coordinates, what to be the streaming address, that kind of thing. So it's really, really complicated when you work with this kind of JSON file, and can really, really, really hard to replicate this across a different, let's say, 100 or 1,000 of like IoT device and do this deployment. But the good part is that Microsoft is already working with something with an interface, something really mature, so you can deploy and work with that. And that's exactly what I'm going to show for you now. Let me get here. So that's something that Microsoft is working recently, is still in preview. It's called Vision Studio. The Vision Studio will help you to deploy and work and establish what will be your business requirements for the spatial analysis and deploy this straight away to the container, okay? So in a nutshell, this is the main interface that we have here. Let me just switch tabs quickly here, not here. Yeah, so if I go to the deployment part, so basically I'm here in the Vision Studio, I go to the deployment part, I open here my resource that I have on Azure, and I have a couple options here, and I can start a deployment, okay? So in a nutshell, so it's basically, I will add a new deployment, I will choose what will be my business case. For example, I want to count the people in the area. I want to detect the people crossing, monitor social distance, doesn't matter. You help you with that. So let's start with the count people, okay? The first thing you need to do is set the deployment name, and you can see already some configurations that you can do on this. I can enable, for example, for the operation that I mentioned for a count of people, you can enable things like do face mask detection. You can as well bring some kind of a different model on top of what you execute inside of the spatial analysis. For example, you can enable and bring a pre-trained model to run on top of this. It's not just counting people, but running as well your pre-trained model. As the example is saying here, for example, I want to count of people of using red t-shirt and versus people using the blue t-shirt. So it's some kind of intelligence can be intelligent models that you can bring and add on top of spatial analysis, okay? Of course, that you can do things like personal data collection. If you want to, for example, every time I detect someone, I get a picture of this person, upload this, and I have available, let's say, in a computer vision data set. That's really important, for example, if you want to do operations like, let me say, operations like detect if the proper person is in a proper area. For example, this is a dangerous area, it's just the personnel that this specific personnel is allowed to enter there. You can train your model to say, yes, the person that's there is not the person that needs to be there. That's one of the things. Of course, another thing that you have here, you can enable the logging, so you can understand how the deployment is working, how these operations are working inside of your spatial analysis container. Okay, so we're just moving next here, okay? And the next step here is basically connect with the IoT Edge. That's nice because you already have everything. Is looking for all the subscriptions, and I'm gonna connect with my subscription here. I'm gonna select here my IoT hub, and then I will select my device. All my devices are disconnected, but there's no problem at all because this doesn't matter at this point. So I will select here the device, and that's it. Once I have the connection with the device, I'm saying basically, look, Mr. Deployment, connect with this server here and deploying there. Okay, so moving next, you have the camera. You need to select a source ID, and of course here I just can I'm deploying to a single camera, and now you get my streaming my streaming address. Let me jump here and get my SES connection. Okay, and come back here. I will paste here. This will be is a video file, as you can see here. This is the accepted format and before. And I will connect it with this video stream. And there's another option here that you can say, for example, if this is a video stream, you need to set if it's a live one, or if it's not a live one, you need to set to false. It's important because it's the way that spatial analysis behave when you're connecting through a real-time video or just recorded video, okay? And the next part is the most complicated one. If you remember, let me come back here to my presentation. Here we go. Yeah. So if we come back here quickly, you can, yeah. So basically, when you look at this configuration, say, yeah, you need to create every single JSON file to establish the configuration with the spatial analysis is really tricky. In specific, when you need to build the regions here of the polygon. So you need to exactly know the coordinates, where is the coordinates at the axis, X and Y, and you need to put here what will be the points on this. So with this new magical thing that we have here for the deployment with the Vision Studio, you can easily come here and upload the image that look like the more or less, oh, we have bodies here. And you have the screenshot here, for example, for the temple bar, one of the cameras that was collecting data for a test. And you can see here, yeah, you have the camera. This is more or less the frame of the video camera. You understand where to position the camera already. And if you want to set a polygon, it's really simple. Click here, add a polygon, and you can say, yeah, I want to just monitor the front of the temple bar. And you can just click here. I want to monitor until here, until here, until here, here, and here. That's it. So what you're gonna do is the spatial analysis. You get the video streaming, and you just check and do the people counting every time someone just enter in this specific area here, okay? So that's one of the ways that I'm gonna do. Also, you have everything, you just need to save, of course, and you just next, and you have your summarization here for the deployment, and you execute your deployment. That's in a nutshell how it works, how it's simple to deploy to multiple cameras, to multiple servers, cameras, and so on. Okay. So once you have everything deployed, you're gonna have here the spatial analysis running in the same way that I show you in the presentation. But let me show you here like different examples here, for example. So this example here, again, is just a people counting, okay? As you can see here, we have the polygon setting here, this specific area that I would like to monitor. So every time someone in this specific zone, I will do the counting. You can see here the count in the corner, counting 3, 4 people here, and I just doing the box here around the person, okay? As well here, if we take a look at the zone, you can see here where we select the zone and the zone that we would like to select and like to extract the insights, okay? Here's another example that we're doing the people counting, but we have a reduced here zone, okay? So if you come back here for the Vision Studio, so let's get another, for example, the social distance one, right? So the social distance, you'll be the same way. So you're gonna count people here, and every time someone break the social distance, you're gonna detect the social distance in here, okay? So if a person enter this area, I just monitor this specific area, this field of view of the camera. If someone's breaking the social distance, you're gonna inform and realize AI insight on top of that. See, more to 1 people, 2 people breaking the social distance. So there's a lot of different use case. For example, the entry and exit as well. So you can see here we have the camera, and the camera just monitor if someone just entered here in the supermarket, for example. So every time someone enter, I will start detecting the people just enter, cross to the right, cross to the left, and so on. And another thing that's really cool is that you can bring it and collect the insights of the path, so of the footprint of the person, and you can understand what the people movement across the retail store. It's bringing us a lot of insights for like for the retail companies or any kind of companies that need to understand the people movement inside of the specific location, physical location. Okay. Let me see if I have another one. Social distance, try to look. Yeah, and the last one you can select here, for example, if someone just wait here in a queue, you can count how much time the person is just spending here. So every time someone enters the specific zone, I will start to count how long he's staying this and waiting to be, let's say, to get the things done. Okay. Okay, so let me jump back to the presentation. Here we go. Let me jump here, jump here, jump here. So we talk about this. Okay, another important information. So everything that Microsoft is doing recently are based on AI, yes. So, but it's important for Microsoft as well that customers that like to use, developers that like to use as well, understand the responsible use of AI. And this is like a top priority for Microsoft in this sense. So in Microsoft, what Microsoft is doing is releasing spatial analysis together with responsible AI recommendations, grounded, of course, in the social talk research. So Microsoft chooses many of the responsible innovations techniques to develop these features to ensure the technology maximizes the personal privacy and provide transparency and promote trust. Microsoft as well work with the concept of fairness, reliability, safety, privacy and security, and of course, inclusiveness, transparency, and human accountability. This is really, really important for us when you start to building and work with this kind of spatial analysis models or any kind of AI that we have available inside of Microsoft, that you take a look and work with responsible use of AI. So just here to comprehend, for example, spatial analysis at any moment is collecting, for example, characteristics of the person, like person color or any characteristic of the body, or even like bring any kind of personal identifiable information about the person. Okay, so we detect, we do the detection, we generate an ID, and that's it. No personal information detected, no anything related to the gender, nothing related to the color. So we are really work with the fairness on top of the use of this. Okay. I think that's it from my side. So if you want to learn more, you're gonna have my connections, you have my LinkedIn, you have my Twitter, you can, and of course you can reach me out. But if you really want to try by yourself, the spatial analysis, you can submit your case to Microsoft, because again, it's a product that's still in preview. So enter there, submit your case, Microsoft understand. Usually we are really fast to answer to this, and you can get started using this. Okay, so I'm ready for any questions you may have.
So thank you so much, Victor, for the wonderful presentation. And
No problem.
I hope someone has any question, please unmute or send the chat message. I can see Andy here. Andy has joined.
Yeah, apologies, I was a bit late. I was getting dinner ready.
It's all right.
Just a little bit over. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Sorry. I was getting dinner ready for the family, and it was just taking a bit longer than I anticipated. But that was a really interesting session. Thanks ever so much. Interesting around the ethics and the responsibility around AI. I was just listening to a podcast this evening actually about particularly how we're expecting cyber criminals to be utilizing AI by now, but they haven't really actually started to grasp it, and that's predominantly because obviously data scientists, machine learning engineers, developers and things are quite small in the pool of people that you can get. So to get ones that do cybersecurity and AI and all the other bits means that that pool is even smaller, which is why the adoption of AI and cybersecurity hasn't been widely adopted. I mean, it's only a matter of time. They were talking probably about business email compromise, phishing campaigns and things like that, where you have an operator checking things. Similarly with the spatial analysis and things like that, I see lots of great use cases and
I can give an example. For example, is that Microsoft is not positioned this kind of solution with customers, for example, that want to use, for example, in Department of Police, for example, they don't want to use, and Microsoft is not like implementing. That's why at this point, you can need to submit your case to Microsoft before you start to use the product. So for Microsoft, it's important to understand what is your plan with the product, and to understand how we can apply and improve on this. So far, we are having a lot of good case, but of course, there's always the concerns, for example, for customers that they say, specifically for retail, they are looking for, look, I want really more insights. I want to, like, for example, I want to check the person color, for example, or person gender, for example, and this is not the case. You don't want to apply for this. You want to be really simple, really straightforward, and really fair in the application of the AI today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm working with some clients currently with, kind of with yourselves as well at the moment, but looking at kind of intelligent stores and looking at the stores of tomorrow. I'm really excited to kind of start seeing where we can take some of that stuff. And
that's great. So I think the spatial analysis is great, specifically for retail, but I saw a lot of cases. So a couple of months ago, I was discussing with those guys from Canada, and they have this safety construction site safety company. So what they want to do is basically install cameras in the safety site, and you monitor. They select the area near to the some machinery or something like this. And every time enter near to this machinery, they will generate an alert, send a lot of SMS to the guys across the construction site and so on. So there's a lot of a nice case that someone can bring to the real life with spatial analysis. Specifically, like, okay, this is a danger zone. I can detect if people just enter this danger zone and so on. And the insights are so quickly, is like almost near real time. I was doing some the latest for this, like is milliseconds. Detect and send the alert to Azure, and Azure send to someone is really, really fast. So it's something that's really nice to be implemented across retail, construction, any kind of logistics sites and so on.
Yeah, well, I can see implications for oil, gas, all kinds of things. I was working with a petrochemical company where they've got oil rigs and things like that.
Yeah.
So, you can quite quickly see lots of different cases. In fact, one of my friends was working on, I mean, it's unfortunate, but there was a Huli drone strike a few years ago in the Middle East, and we were looking at implications of using IoT and edge type technologies to try and to detect early warning. So the guy was really good at motors, and obviously, as motors go, they give off the resonance, a vibration, and so they were kind of creating these technologies to pick up the vibrations of the drones propellers as early detection mechanisms for this. I mean, totally cool stuff. Like,
oh, there's a lot of and I think when we are bringing more and more powerful hardware to run at the edge, for example, the Azure Stack Edge is really good for even like the example that you just mentioned, because it requires, let's say, low latency in an almost disconnected scenario. When also more we improve and have better hardware to run on top of this, like, you'll be amazed at the implications that you can bring to this kind of solution, right?
Yeah. I missed just what you said about the GPUs that you had locally. What was it, a specific GPU in the servers that you needed?
Yeah,
I seen you said NVIDIA, but
it's an NVIDIA T4, Tesla T4. Yeah, it's a T4.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this one is the one that's specific right now. But of course, the Microsoft teams work a lot with the spatial analysis to bring this available for different kind of GPUs. For example, if you regard that like really IoT device, you heard about, for example, Jetson Nano from NVIDIA. It's a powerful hardware. This one, we are working to bring more and more GPU supportability, because there's a lot of GPUs across the, across the industry. There's no reason to specifically just one and work with just one with the product.
That's really, really helpful. I'm feeling a little bit kind of a couple of years ago, before COVID, Sakaldeep will tell you, I donated all my servers to the local school to teach them how the cloud was built. Unfortunately, obviously, a pandemic kind of came around. So I've kind of been sat at home with all these HP ProLiant servers sat in a school that I can't kind of have access to. I mean, obviously I've got the cloud and we've got Azure and things like that, but I just needed some local power. Yeah,
I know that feeling, because I was doing some research like yesterday, because I want to try different things like in hybrid scenarios, right, with Arc and Kubernetes and so on. And I was just doing some research across the diverts, looking for some hardware, like to buy some new servers, or let's say some small servers, so I can test this kind of thing. Yeah, I miss the old thing with the hardware, right?
It's here to stay. I love the whole kind of the cloud. It's just it's just somebody else's, right? But I mean, literally, I mean, I could put my camera on again. Sakaldeep would tell you, but I just won a gigabit pro curve switch off of eBay last night. Just a managed switch. So we're using Defender for IoT.
Yeah. Oh, so, nice.
So we're just building our labs out and things like that.
Let me get something here, if I can show you. Just a second. I just finishing this. Let me turn on the camera again. So I just trying to tie up my cluster. So
you got your Pi cluster, yeah.
I start as a Pi cluster, but yesterday I have the Jetson on it that's here, and I say I'll build a Jetson on a cluster and not a Pi cluster, and now I need another hack because I want the Pi cluster back. So a couple of things that we can play around on this.
Oh, brilliant.
That's nice. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that like in this kind of implications and so on, but looking forward to see a lot of other projects on this sense, not in just using hardwares like this, Raspberry Pi, or using Jetson Nano and so on. I think that's the great value is there. It's not like in big things, in big hardwares and so on.